Alrighty, so about a week ago, maybe it was close to 2 weeks ago, I got a request to do an Oogie Boogie time lapse out of glow-in-the-dark tape, and I thought that would be a pretty cool Halloween time lapse, so I decided to do that for this video. And it's going to be on black because whenever you're making something out of glow-in-the-dark tape, you always want to do it on a dark background, and the black really seemed to work out well for that. There's a glow-in-the-dark tape, and this is probably the most expensive time-lapse I've ever done on the channel, simply because the glow-in-the-dark tape is so expensive. I was able to get this at Walmart for about $6 a roll, and it only comes in 10 feet, so you kind of have to use it sparingly. And it usually retails for $10 at Michael's, which is pretty crazy. Definitely want to use a coupon if you're getting it at Michael's. So now I'm going to just start cutting it out. It is actually a lot thicker than normal duct tape. It almost has like kind of a fabric feel to it, and it definitely has, it almost seems like it has more adhesive than normal duct tape too, because it definitely stuck to the mat a lot more than the traditional duct tape does. And you're going to see me kind of wrestle with that later on. I have a new blade in the hobby knife, and if I was using a dull blade, it probably would have been even harder to cut out. So that's just a tip. If you guys are using the glow-in-the-dark tape on your cutting mats, definitely try to use a sharp blade in your hobby knife. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot more trouble with it. So now you're going to see me just really start to peel it up. And you can't really tell, but I'm taking a lot more time to peel it up than normal tape. It's definitely coming up a lot slower just because you really have to wrench it off the cutting mat. It definitely does stick really well. So I'm just going to slowly work on that. It's one giant glow-in-the-dark piece. And this is actually only half the battle. The hardest part is peeling it up. As you can see there, it kind of came separated, and I have to I just kind of cut ahead so you guys didn't have to see me kind of wrestle with it for a good 2 or 3 minutes. So I'm going to stick it on there. It's kind of warps a little bit, so you kind of have to be really careful when you are sticking it on. But it seemed to work out pretty well. Next I'm going to work on his dice, or I'm sorry, not his dice. I'm actually going to work on his face next, which are his eyes and his mouth. And this is going to provide some really great contrast when I do stick it onto the giant glow-in-the-dark piece. At the very end of the video, I'll shine it under my light for a little bit, and then you'll be able to see what it looks like when it's all nice and glowing. Definitely looks really cool. So now I'm using that paper piece to know exactly where to stick the eyes and the mouth. And as you can tell, it looks just like Oogie Boogie from Nightmare Before Christmas. Next are his dice, and his dice are usually red. They have some skulls and crossbones on them and some other designs, but you're not going to be able to see that because it's so small. So I'm just going to cut out some black pieces and use those to, kind of give you guys an idea of what the numbers of them on. I'm going to make the first one a 5, the top one. And you can barely see me stick those on, and the bottom one's going to be a 2. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a close-up real quick to see what they look like, but you're going to have to watch for it. It's right about there. And now I'm actually going to work on 2 more glow-in-the-dark dice, because I wanted to add something else to the time-lapse. This one is actually pretty simple, this time-lapse. It's definitely a lot shorter, and sometimes every now and then I just want to make something a little more simple, and just, not spend quite as much time on it as I do for my normal time-lapses. This one's only about a little over 4.5 minutes, which is pretty cool. They're kind of like 3D dice, so I decided to add those black marks to them, kind of give an idea of what it looks like. I would actually trim them back, which I'm going to do later on. Now I'm going to work on the actual, numbers on them. First one's going to be a 3, kind of have to arrange it on there. And then this one's going to be a 4. And then I'm going to work on a 5 over here. And then in the next scene, you'll actually see me trim those border lines a little bit. So I stuck those back on. Looks a lot better when they're smaller. Okay, now I'm going to charge it under my light a little bit. And I'm going to reach over, turn off my light. Go ahead, turn it off. There we go. So now you can see how cool it looks. It looks a lot cooler in person, but the camera does a pretty good job of picking up the glow-in-the-dark tape. Definitely really cool. And that just really shows you how cool you can make the glow-in-the-dark tape on a black background. Hopefully you guys liked the video. Catch you next time.